And he lifted up his eyes on his disciples and said, Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you shall be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep now, for you shall laugh.
He goes around preaching that the kingdom of God is about to begin, and everyone must be ready for this kingdom of God. So he clearly is one of those eschatological prophets, those people expecting the end of days.
They chose James the Just as overseer of Jerusalem.
James the Just is recorded to have been the first elected to the throne of the oversight of the church in Jerusalem.
The succession of the church passed to James, the brother of the Lord.
Father Dean Burchard, why is James so marginalized in church history? I mean, we've seen no pictures or statues of him in Rome.
Yeah, that's true, and unfortunately, most of the history of that Jerusalem church is lost. If it were not for Luke, with a few recording the few little things that he learned, we'd know next to nothing at all. You know, and so most of that history is lost, and it's tragic.
So you don't believe Luke was trying to write James out of the story and promote Paul over James?
Well, it's true, and that's an issue in the study of the Acts of the Apostles, you know, that it's a selective history.
The disciples said to Jesus, "We know that you're going to leave us. Who will be our leader?" Jesus replied to them, "No matter where you are, you're to go to James the Just, for whose sake heaven and earth came into being."
Then some of the believers who belonged to the party of the Pharisees stood up and said,
"The Gentiles must be circumcised and required to obey the law of Moses."
The apostles and elders met to consider this question. When they finished, James spoke up.
"Brothers, it is my judgment, therefore, that we should not make it difficult for the Gentiles who are turning to God. Instead, we should write to them, telling them to abstain from food polluted by idols, from sexual immorality, from the meat of strangled animals, and from blood."
Then they said to Paul,
"You see, brother, how many thousands of Jews have believed, and all of them are zealous for the law. They have been informed that you teach all the Jews who live among the Gentiles to turn away from Moses, telling them not to circumcise their children or live according to our customs. What shall we do? So do what we tell you. There are 4 men with us who have made a vow. Take these men, join in their purification rites, and pay their expenses, so that they can have their heads shaved. Then everybody will know there is no truth in these reports about you, but that you yourself are living in obedience to the law."
When they saw that the gospel of the uncircumcision was committed unto me, as the gospel of the circumcision was unto Peter, for he that wrought effectually in Peter the apostleship of the circumcision, the same was mighty in me toward the Gentiles. And when James, Cephas, and John, who seemed to be pillars, perceived the grace that was given unto me, they gave to me and Barnabas the right hands of fellowship, that we should go unto the heathen, and they unto the circumcision. Only they would that we should remember the poor, the same which I also was forward to do.
It was Herod the Great who made a government with no connection to the old tribal loyalties. Herod the Great made a government of Roman civil administrators with no connection to his people. And therefore, the country was severely divided between the official political power in Jerusalem and what was really happening in the rest of the country.
يسوع المسيح يا ابن الله ارحمني. الصلاة الثالثة بوالدة الإله هيا فريقة القداسة خلصينا بتكرارها.
That Christianity came to be this creedal confession of the death, burial, resurrection of Jesus, Christmas and Easter, two main holidays, and yet we find in the book of James, or the letter of James, that's not the emphasis. So what is the emphasis? It is the view of true religion based upon the Hebrew prophets. It basically is the question, what does God really require of humans? It's a universal question. You know, Micah, I'm talking about Micah, Amos, Hosea, these ringing prophets that talk about justice and righteousness. If you're kind of critical of Paul, you'd say, no, wait a minute, he never even met Jesus. Shouldn't we go more by what Jesus taught and what people that knew Jesus taught, like James, his own brother, or Peter, who was with him, Cephas or Cephas, rather than the visionary experience of somebody who never actually met him? And how do we know how to credit that visionary experience?
Antioch's Jesus followers seem to be flouting the most distinctive laws of Judaism. Laws delivered by Moses, which prohibited non-kosher food and went to the heart of Jewish identity.
For hundreds of years, Jewish martyrs had died to observe the Jewish law. Now, Paul is saying that pagans can become full Jews without being converted. So what they had died for was now somehow abrogated, or could be skipped, or could be bypassed. And for many Jews, that was just not acceptable.
They invoked all the authority of the Jerusalem apostles, men who had known Jesus personally, and in James's case, were even members of his family. Peter and Barnabas acquiesced.